Okay, so now,
The person with those last images, are you here?
no, I don't think she is.
Darn.
And the last question of a chat that just came in here is from Jenna. I think it says, I think that I was slides 8 and 9. Which set of images do you like better? The mismatched sizes with too tall and too wide, or all the same sizes for the jury image?
She was
I don't
7 and
know.
8, actually. But yes,
I don't recall what that was.
do you want me to share screen and go back to it?
Maybe that would be helpful for the
Yeah.
artist question.
These two.
Oh,
I actually kind of like this way.
mhm.
With the two verticals on the ends.
Yeah,
Sharon,
that's
I think given how strong those are, that, yeah.
okay.
I have some questions when you guys have time.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself now.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I have a couple questions specific to my presentation. I'm the spray paint stencil artist. I forgot my slide number. So I think I'm gonna take out the rug. You guys aren't the only person that have said that. I thought it helped with the color, but it seems like way too distracting. Everybody comments on it, whether or not they like it or hate it, and I feel like that's probably a bad thing because it's not the art that they're commenting on, even if they like it. That's
exactly.
kind of
Right.
there. Another thing you guys had said, so somebody had commented on my vase. I have like a weird shaped vase that's got flowers. Should I take that out? Is it something that is going to trip somebody up and they'll be like, oh, he's trying to sneak in sculptures? Like that was the comment somebody made. Don't worry
That
about
was
it.
my
No, I
comment.
liked it.
Okay. The
It
last
picked up
one.
the colors.
Cool. All right. The last questions that I really had is like, I get waitlisted for so many things. And I got a lot of good feedback from you guys, but I just didn't really get a whole lot of like constructive criticism other than the rug, but I don't think that the rug is what's getting me waitlisted. So I'm just, if you have time, I'd love it if you picked me apart further and like maybe got meaner or something. I don't know, but I'm just,
okay.
Oh,
I can answer your question. Sometimes you get accepted to everything. Sometimes you get accepted to nothing, and sometimes you get on the wait list, and it's different every year. At least that's my, that's how it is
yes.
with me. So, just believe in yourself.
I think that's true, Barry, about it varies every year and all that. However, I say this right, I think there is a lack of appreciation for the work that spray paint and stencil artists do. And that's
I
a
agree with
compliment
that.
to you. That's a compliment to you. I mean, I just think that there's a lack of appreciation for that, and that's incumbent on the festivals and the jurors to fix. And that guys like you ought to push the fact that you're artists too. The fact that you use spray paint does not make, and not a brush, does not make you less of a painter. We have a lot of that happening here in town. Artists who are doing murals and stencil spray
Tagging.
paint work, and I hear people say, "Oh, well, it's just spray paint." Yeah, right.
Good.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
tagging. Tagging
And what
has
I
such
do,
a
it's
negative
it's just
connotation.
raccoon. I get the same thing. So
Well, is there anything that I can do to like improve my application? I don't want to just be a victim and be like, oh, I'm not getting in because people don't get my medium. Like, is there anything that you guys see that I could do to improve my application to
Yeah.
help, especially like, it seems like jurors are primarily like the older demographic, right? It's people like 50, 60, because they've been artists that long. So is there any way that I can make my application, my images connect to those people better, like whether it's through image choice or something, just like to help improve my chances?
Nothing political.
I can answer that question too. Just keep making work and get and strive to get better. Don't strive for the mundane. Do something, take some chances, go a little farther and keep working. That's the only thing you can do. Keep working. If nobody likes it, well, that's their problem, you know. Well, it's your
But he
problem
still
because
needs,
you want to get
he
into
still
it.
needs to make a living, so,
Yes.
Well, yeah, we all do. So
so I don't know if
Okay.
you can put, without bringing your artist statement back up, with whether you can put any little bit of wording in there that goes to the point, I don't say this well, but goes to the point that spray paint and stencil is a great art form. I mean, to try to help that education. And my other thing would be which shows, because depending on the show, they may be more then the
A
jury
better fit.
reception to your art may be a better fit, right? More indie shows, more cutty shows.
Well, I get into all the indie shows, but a lot of the indie shows are smaller. Like I get into almost every indie show, and I sell like hotcakes there.
Right.
And then when I get into like the fine art shows, you know, like the higher caliber shows, it's rare. But when I get into them, I sell like phenomenally well. Like I'm outselling my neighbors, and I'm getting just. And so it's kind of like yeah, it's. But those are the ones that I struggle to get into the most. Like Bellevue Arts Museum Festival, I'm struggling, and like all the big ones in my area, Art in the Park in Coeur d'Alene, Sun River, Sun Valley, Art Fest Spokane. Like, so those are the ones that I struggle and get waitlisted for a lot. Like the street fairs, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I get into those, no problem. But
Well, that's sort of the proof, right? That you sell great when you get to those non-indie shows, those bigger shows. You sell great. That means the attendees are looking for you. It's that kind of art. It's the
yeah, it's the jurors. I can't get through
Right.
to the jurors, and that's
Right.
what I'm trying to improve out of this
So
experience.
what
is how do
else
I
is
get to the
new?
jurors? So
it's always
Younger,
like
Well,
that.
younger
okay.
jurors.
younger
You s-
jurors.
You say that the bath mat, sorry, I was the one that called it that.
no, that's
You s-
very fair. It is a bath mat. It's a very big bath mat.
I called it a napkin. So
So you say that you don't think that that kept you out. It
Mhm.
very well
It could
might
have.
have,
Could have.
because it might have been just the thing that tipped the juror in a more negative. Like, what the heck is that?
well, it'd be more like a psychological thing.
But you never know what if a juror is wavering between a real positive score and a not quite so positive score. They look at the booth image and they just need something to help tip them one way or another. And that's the kind of thing that unfortunately can tip them. Something that's just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Have any of them given you your scores so you can compare, like giving you your score and what the cut line score was, so you know how far off you were?
No, none of the shows that I apply for, and they're all the ones that send an email specifically being like, "Don't ask us," you know, like, and so I just don't. But
That's unfortunate.
yeah,
Well,
it's frustrating.
Your work is very strong.
Yeah, it's
Your
great.
booth looks good. It's
Well,
got to
thank
be
you very
just
much.
the shows that you're applying to.
And that's on them, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. So, well, yeah, thank you guys very much for your time. I didn't mean to take up so much of it, but I appreciate all the feedback. So it's helpful.
You can have as much as you need.
Yeah.
Well, if nobody else has, I have general questions that I feel like apply to everybody that I observed through the process. Not on my booth, but like, how much time does in a typical jury? You guys spend a lot of time discussing amongst yourselves each applicant. Is that like a typical juror process? Does that usually happen? Or is the discussion non-existent at all? Is it silent completely, or like how does that work in the?
Not more than 20 seconds.
And probably more like 8 to 10, depending
Yeah.
on the
If it's
show.
a projection jury.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's
If-
projection.
If there's discussion, it's usually after everyone has scored. Everyone has been scored. And then sometimes they'll go back through all the images. And if there's any discussion, that would be the time. But it's after you've already been juried.
When you say it's like 8 seconds, is that like 8 seconds per slide? Or
No.
is that like 8 seconds?
No,
Like 8 seconds,
8
they're going
seconds
slide
for the
one,
whole
slide two,
thing.
and it's by slide. So you're like a second and a half, 2 seconds per slide.
No,
Yeah.
Well, it
they're
would-
seeing them all at the same time.
Yeah.
It would vary, right? So if it's a
If it's-
projected jury, then you're gonna see, like we see here, you're gonna see all the images at the same time, maybe not probably not the artist statement, but you'll see all the images at the same time, including the booth. And then in a projected jury, and the whole time would be 8 seconds, 10 seconds, something in that range, and probably no conversation. That depends on the festival,
Yeah.
but then there's plenty of festivals who jury it digitally, and the jurors may not even be together. They're doing it at home or at work on their computer screen. And that's when you start getting, and there's probably no discussion because they're doing it, whenever they're doing it. And maybe they're looking for 10 seconds, maybe they're looking for 20, maybe they spend half an hour. I mean, the festival has no control on it.
So
So
are the
that varies a lot.
are the computer screen jurors, like, is there any format for the jury where they're seeing it one image at a time? Because you said projections all laid
Yes.
out. Is computer
Yeah.
screen is one image at a
Well-
time?
Yes,
Well, if they're sitting at home looking on their computer, they have as much time as they need to look at the images.
Yeah, but it's one image at a
but
time.
it's,
So
yes,
one at a time,
and
yeah,
then you move to the next.
which I like, actually.
And
So
then
that-
at the end, right before you score, or as you're scoring, you can see all the images together, including the booth image.
Yeah, but it's little tiny
It
thumbnails.
has a thumbnail.
Right,
Gotcha. And so when you guys were talking about your best image needs to be first, that's more for the computer monitor ones, right? Because
For
that's
any
the
jury.
first thing that pops up.
Anything.
Well,
Any
all of
jury.
them,
any,
because you want an initial reaction. So if you have your and you're looking from left to right, so that's your first response. Your first reaction would be to the first one.
and the other
Right.
thing is, it's the thumbnail that the show uses on all of your stuff, all of your Zap stuff.
Yeah.
Your first image is the one that gets grabbed to use as like your image.
And if the show is going to use your images for PR, it's always going to be the first image.
Gotcha.
Unless
In-
they ask. Some
Unless they
shows-
ask.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of shows say, which image do you want us to use?
Yeah, yeah.
Or send us a high res image.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. I mean, all that was really helpful. So I really had no idea how this whole process works. So it's good to get a visual on it.
Hey,
Well,
we don't
I would
either.
encourage,
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like, we have no idea.
I was going to encourage Dakota that if there's an art festival near you that has an open jury or open day as the day before or something, go and watch how a projected works, or ask somebody if you can see how the digital process works. I know some folks that do the online version have a demo to artists, but I'm really an advocate of projected, so I know a lot more about them.
Yeah, Larry gave me the same feedback over the phone. So
Yeah.
I'm going to look into that.
Go to them.
My name is Elva. Could I ask some questions?
Sure.
Yes,
Yes, okay. Mine was closer to the end. You weren't very thrilled with my images, so I just would like to go back and revisit and have you give me more input. I'm new to this stuff, and so just like to get all the feedback that you could give me to help me out.
Which presentation was yours?
The one with you didn't like my #1 image, which was the two paintings that were attached.
Right, got
Off the black frame
Yes.
from it.
it. Okay, I'll pull it up. This
Yeah.
one.
yeah,
So
What
are
would
they
you like to know?
attached?
They are attached. They were attached and then painted as one unit. And then they actually have a black frame around it so that there's negative space within the frame. I wanted to do something unique.
Yeah, I took the frame off for the jury image for here.
I think it's way cool to have that concept. I might look at it to buy it. I think it is distracting for the jury. You would
I
have
think
more
so,
strength
too.
of a squig square or something. Because it makes them ask questions like we did.
Unless you
Yeah.
had other images in a similar format.
I do,
Oh,
and
yeah.
this is
What?
one of 3 similar pieces. And
I
the
think-
other
I
is just
think
straight
want to
out.
have them all be that.
Okay, so I'm better off with one of those canvases.
You know, I think one of the problems with us as artists, you have to think about you know, how is it being interpreted as opposed to what you're trying to the message you're trying to give. You know, a lot of times it has to be clear. And in this case, I just see those white squares or rectangles as a distraction. Like I want to take them off and look at what's underneath.
It
Okay.
doesn't work, you know, I found with my own work, you know, there are some pieces that are just spectacular in person, but they make a terrible jury image.
And vice
That's
versa.
why, yes, that's why when I take images, I always do a whole lot more than what I actually need, because I don't know for certain what's going to look the best once the image is done.
I think to that point, Bonnie, it's maybe fair, maybe not. The thinking about what goes well on the jury image without, lying about your work. I mean, it's to be honest about all that, but what works well on jury images, so you can get into the show, may not be the same thing that sells like hotcakes in your booth, right? Because like I said, if I were coming in the booth, I'd be really looking at those two that are offset. I think that's kind of cool and different. So it maybe sells great, but you got to get past the jury, and that may be unfair, and it may be that the whole jury process is not as complimentary to innovation as we would all like. It's just the way it is, right? So think about that. I mean, Bonnie's point is great. I got to get past the jury first. So what am I going to do that? And don't think, well, this isn't my, inventive, artistic way. Cool, but you want to get it in the show. So
What about the other 4 images? Would you keep those or not?
The other 3, I would,
mhm.
The other 3 were okay?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
The only one, the first one is the only one that stuck out.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
just need to find another one that goes with those 3, and then pick whatever your strongest image is and put that in the number 1 spot.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I appreciate the input.
Certainly. More questions? I'll sit up straight.
Come on, somebody has to have a question.
So quiet.
Yeah,
Hey, is Kristen still here?
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Kristen. Have you finished my
Hello.
blue shirt? Have you finished my blue shirt yet?
Your blue shirt. I'm still trying to figure this out.
That's okay. Since I have to pay for Crassel, in a day or two,
Mhm.
you have time. You have a couple months.
Okay.
And listen, it's your fault. If they weren't so nice, I wouldn't be asking for one. So
Well, thank you. I just hope I have some jewelry ready for my shows.
We were just discussing you earlier today at the Art Girls.
Oh,
About the fact that you were doing too much sewing and not enough jewelry making.
I know. I know.
Sorry, guys, off topic.
Gotta
I
have
know.
a,
That's
I
okay.
started it.
Oscar had posted in the chat that 3 of the shows asked him, used his images, but not the number 1 image.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. The important thing is they use this image. It's
Yeah.
bragging rights,
Right.
you know? Hey, look at, they used my image. And then of course the drag is the next year he gets rejected and he goes, what was that all about? You know? One year they love him and the next year he's
Chop liver.
chop liver. That's right. I speak from experience, so
Hey, we all do.
yeah.
I would
Excellent.
like to say something.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Anke. So I received a text from Kristen this morning telling me that this would happen. And I'm following you on Facebook, Larry. And whenever I look at your post, it says, oh, the mortuary is happening. And whenever I look at it, it already happened. So anyways, thank you, Kristen, for reminding me this morning. And I'm really glad I finally got to watch this because now I'm encouraged to submit my booth image at one point in my whole presentation. I mean, most of the applications are already out, and I'm, by the way, what was his name, Dakota? I've also been waitlisted a lot, unfortunately, this year. But yeah, no, really great to hear your opinions. And by the way, I'm making leather
Hey.
bags.
I'd rather be waitlisted than rejected.
Yeah. Some years I felt like the waitlist queen. You know, but it's amazing how many times you get in off a wait list. So all is not lost.
Yeah, and there's an
But-
art to it also.
Yeah, and pay attention to when the shows require booth payments,
That's right.
because usually a day or so afterwards, there have been people that haven't paid
Yeah.
and they're giving those spaces away.
Timing is everything.
Yeah,
Now I looked at it. There was one show where they specifically said, "Please don't contact us
yeah, I know.
for
I call,
waitlisting or whatever."
I
And then
call them
finally I was
anyway.
like,
That's
Sorry?
right. They all say that.
well, so finally I sent them an email on Friday. I'm still waiting. I'm still hoping. So yeah.
You know, Sharon could
Don't
answer that
call
one.
them.
What did you
Do
say, Barry?
not, as a show director, please don't call.
No
send-
call.
No, send an email.
That's what I did.
Yes, but I'm just,
That's
as
how
a
that works.
general rule to everyone,
I'm a call person. so-
because, well, that's fine, but yeah,
You know,
I don't
that,
necessarily, as a show director, I don't necessarily appreciate all the phone calls. I will answer your questions, but it gets really hard because, you know, we have a life too. And if you've got,
really?
you know, 57 people calling you, but we use the waiting list on Zap, so you know exactly where you are.
Yeah, this
we do
isn't
it
a
a little
wait
different.
list solution answer, but when I got into Fort Worth and I'm going, oh my God, I got into Fort Worth, which if I ever get off this call, Zoom call, I'll actually be able to get there. Setup is tomorrow, but I looked at my booth space and all the booths there are pretty much in a one long tent, or it used to be one long tent of 5 sections. But they last year, I was told by a friend of mine who did it that they added side streets. So I'm looking, where's my booth? I'm on one of the side streets, but not just the first block, it's the second block. In other words, I was as far away from the main show as possible. And I know my friend said, well, they put him over there and he still did really well. But so I'm thinking, oh, I got to deal with this. So I did send an email with my phone number to the person. And she actually called me about 15 minutes later and said, oh, somebody didn't want their space and you can have that space. So, you know, that's a timing thing and it worked, in my favor. So, I didn't call, but texting and sending, or not texting, but emailing with my phone number, I got an
That's-
immediate response.
That's perfect,
Yeah,
because I will always call you, but
yeah,
then I get to choose the time,
yeah,
and it makes it much easier.
yeah.
I'm not an active director anymore. I retired, but year and a half ago. But yeah, second Bonnie, right? Please don't call us. We have, there's, in the case of Art Fest, there's almost 200 artists and there's 3 staff members, like, so that it's overwhelming. And then there's, 100 or whatever on the wait list. But email, great. Because like you said, then we can pick when to respond. We have time to look up the answer to what you want to know. Like if you're asking, we don't use Zap's wait list, you don't see the numbers online, but if you want, trying to ask where you are on the list or what's happening with your medium or whatever, we have time to look up the answer so that when we call you back or email you back, we can answer what you want to know. Rather than being like, wait, what? I was in the middle of writing checks and now I got to figure out what you need. I mean, it's like, so,
I was making dinner, and that's where my head is at.
right.
So, yeah.
Or if you're close to a show that has paid staff, go visit their office for a couple hours and you'll have new empathy for what's on the other end.
Yeah.
And
There's some
volunteer.
artists who just took over Art in the High Desert and they are learning that real quickly, what the other side of the fence looked like.
Hey, you guys keep mentioning like that on Zap, you can see where you're at on the wait list. How do I do that? I never knew that was a thing.
Not always.
If you look at the show and with your name, it should show you right there if they're using did that make any sense? But
If they're using the system, right.
the
But
system.
not everybody does.
I love the system that Zap has because it works really well for us. A lot of people run things totally differently, but you know where you stand. Patty, did you like our waitlist system? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, yeah, it worked.
Yeah. Not that I'm outing her, but
Oh,
sorry.
no, and actually with the emails letting you know, I know in years past, you've definitely sent out emails if it was once a week or once every couple of weeks up until the time where you said what time, how much notice if you were to get called off. That's nice.
I know
I've
I've been waitlisted so many times that all I want is information.
Mhm.
Somebody out there, do you remember me? I really want to do the show. Give me information.
Sometimes if you're short on funds, the wait list works for you because you don't have to pay right away. So you get to pay closer to the show itself.
It's true.
I have some questions about non-waitlist things that didn't come up at all in this process. On Zap, when you're putting in your image details, it asks you for prices and an image description. Do those ever come into play for the jurors? Like, are they seeing the image prices and the image, the little image description you write?
Only if the show wants you to, as far as the prices. Some shows keep it away from, do not let the jurors see that. I kind of appreciate it. Not that it really figures in, except for if I'm seeing, say, a jeweler, since I'm a jeweler, has their 4 images and there's something that makes you want to look at the price. And everything is over $5,000. Well, I highly doubt that this is what they're going to bring. So that everything is going to be in that price range. I don't know. It just makes you then look more carefully at the booth image. I quite often look as a juror. I quite often look at the description of the piece because that gives me good information if I have any questions. But the price for me personally rarely figures into anything. Oh, the other thing as a jeweler, if you see a really nice piece and they're saying it's $35,
Hmm.
then that makes you question if they made it.
Isn't that dependent on the material?
Yes. But I'm talking jeweler,
Yeah, well, I mean, you could use silver and
and it still wouldn't be $35.
okay.
My
Yeah,
expression.
a lot of
my
people underprice. I'm sorry.
I was saying, my expression for what Bonnie is saying is no person in the United States would have made that piece for that
Oh,
price.
yeah. Yeah, I get that.
I mean,
Yes.
It just, you wouldn't, right? So
Yeah.
it's useful there, it's useful on the high end, but
You mean there's buy, sell at shows? There's fraud? Who would have
know,
thought?
and the shows work, a lot of the shows work really hard on that, so you can see that in the pricing. You almost always do the online jury, don't you, Bonnie? As
Yes.
opposed to projected, so.
Oh, as far as a juror?
Mhm,
Oh, no, I've done both.
both,
Lots of projected.
because sometimes in the projectors, the price doesn't even show up, or the descriptions, depends on what the settings are. But it will show up when you get, it's real easy to say, well, the top, 200 artists get in, or the top 25 jewelers, or whichever way the show does it. And so it's easy to think, well, that means that all the scores of the top ones were different than the score of the person right on the line to the wait list. But that's not true, right? At that cut line, particularly in big categories, there might be 15, 20 artists with the same score. Right? And they're not all going to get in and it's not fair that the one who's alphabetically first or randomly first is the one that gets in. So then there gets to be decision-making by either the show or by the jurors, depending on how it's happening. People have different rules. Now we're down to, is this too cheap for what it is? Is this too expensive? What do you think's actually happening here? Is this the work that's going to actually come? Are they going to bring something else? Then you get into all that because you're down to, out of this 20 people, which one am I taking? And which ones are going on the wait list?
You know,
So,
one year.
Very true.
One year I applied to Columbus and I was waitlisted. And they took artists off the wait list alphabetically or reverse alphabetically, which put me at the end, so I didn't get in.
but other folks are then talking instead. I mean, everybody's different how they do that wait list.
Right.
And, or they could be talking about, oh, I really think my next choice is, with all the same scores, my next choice is going to be Mary Sue because has a better looking booth or whatever.
Or fits better with what we already have in the show.
Right, right.
Well, I have a question. So right now I'm waitlisted, and this is the only show on Zap that actually shows me where I'm at on the waitlist. And it's been number 4 right from the beginning. And a friend of mine is also number 4 waitlisted for the same show. I guess they do it by category or
By
what is it?
category.
Different category.
So how would I know? I mean, I know because
Well, that would actually indicate that it's 2 different they're number 4 in their category.
I know,
and you're
but
number 4 in
normally,
yours.
I mean, this is such a coincidence that, she's number 4 as well. So that's why I realized, okay, it's for the category. So my chance to actually get in is like very, very low. But how would I know otherwise?
The show
Well,
should have
yeah.
told you.
Mhm.
That
Right.
one, that is on the show.
Okay.
Because I had someone really mad at me one year because they said, well, you say that you've been taking people off the waiting list, but I'm number 1 and I haven't gotten called.
Hmm.
And it's like, please read your information. It says we go by category.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because most shows are trying to keep the balance, right? They originally selected however many jewelers and however many painters and whatever the
Right.
numbers were. So when they lose somebody, if the person was a painter, they're probably going to go after a painter unless they're down
Right.
to the very last week when it's really more about
Who can get
drive,
there?
who can drive there, right? But But otherwise, it would be, if I'm a painter, then they're gonna be looking for a painter, and it could even be a show could say, well, what we lost was an abstract painter, not a realistic painter, so I'm looking for the abstract one. To try to keep the balance, and that stays for a while, and then pretty soon you can't do that because it's too close to the show, but that's frequently the case.
Okay.
But ask the show if you don't know, right? Because everybody has different rules. It's really hard to generalize.
Now, can I ask what show it was for?
Hold on. It was Four Bridges, Chattanooga.
Oh, this weekend.
Yes, this weekend. I'm still number 4 on the wait list, so I guess I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Hard to say,
Well,
because
there are some shows like Madison.
Well, how close are you to Chattanooga?
yeah, right.
I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I have no idea how close I am, to be honest.
No, because if you were like a 3-hour drive, then you could let them know you're available at the last minute.
Yeah.
You're not a 3-hour drive. I've
No.
made
No.
the drive. I lost my train of thought.
Actually, it's 9, almost 10 hours, so no.
Not now.
Oh, okay, so Madison. If you're number 4 on the waiting list for Madison, you have a pretty good chance of getting in because there are so many other shows that weekend that people have to choose from. And so they really go deep into their waiting list.
That's
But
true in
obvious-
Florida too, right? That's true in Florida because there's so many
Yeah.
competing shows in Florida. And so artists may have accepted one show and then they decide, oh, I got pulled off the wait list from this other show on the same weekend that I'd rather go to. And depending on the show's refund policy, it makes sense or it doesn't. So you see more motion down here just because Florida is oversaturated with art shows, in my opinion,
You think?
I agree.
which isn't good for artists either.
Nope.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Linda. I'm the one that had the black pedestals. I just went literally from tables to tablecloths and tablecloths. That was the first time I set up my booth. The only hesitation I had when I purchased them is that my jewelry does tend to be kind of, a black and white with a little gemstone. And my tables and tablecloths were a lighter color. And I guess I just want to know, I know I need to do something to bring people in and to make things pop a little bit more, but do you think black is okay for the pedestals?
Black is wonderful for the pedestals. You may have to put something on top of them, like this big to lay a piece on, whether it be a frosted plexi or a piece of mat board or
Yeah, do you want me to bring her
Mhm.
picture up?
This isn't the one, the jewelry that we were like, oh my God, what a change,
yes,
right?
I was so impressed.
This one.
Yep. See,
think
I
this-
think you need a big banner on the back wall on the right-hand side that shows like your hands working. Doesn't show your face, but just something interesting. Does that make sense?
And if she can't pull that off, just logistically, then more of the other style and some color. I love the black, so some other color instead of all that white vinyl.
Yeah,
That white vinyl is just a killer. For jewelers, white vinyl is really tough, I think, because it just is too too much, because it's not like you're a painter where you've got those walls all covered up. And it's just white, so.
But as far as laying the jewelry down, if you need, you could probably, yeah, you need some color in there.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't do multiple colors. I'd find one that works well and go with that.
And maybe it's
I
not,
don't know. I was
maybe
just
it's not the
so,
whole wall, maybe it's just the corners. I mean, just enough to break up that white a little bit.
I have to tell you, I was so impressed with where you were and where you are now. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I think you're thinking of someone else. I've never done the jury before.
Oh, yeah, it's the other one that had the tablecloth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it
This is
was?
my,
Yep, yep.
this is my first time.
You switched to
Oh.
black too, the other one.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
I don't think she's ever done a show, Bonnie.
Well, okay.
She's
Let me
working
tell
her
you.
way up to it.
Okay, I love the different heights of the pedestals that you got. That was a brilliant idea. Look how beautiful it looks in the booth image.
So another jeweler has suggested that I take one more pedestal and I put it to the right of the back pedestal. And I thought, like, for a show, that'd be great because it would help draw people in. But for the booth shot, it's still going to make the back far away. But if I made a booth shot with everything kind of going across the front, that might not be the way I set it up during a show.
This is much more interesting than straight across the front.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And if you did want to put another pedestal, you could put it for the booth shot. I don't know that that matters, but you could put it not where the back one is, but where the second one, the middle one is. So it's a little further forward. If you even wanted to do that, I don't know if that's necessary.
Okay.
You could put it half and half.
Mhm.
The
Half
other
of the
thing,
back and half of the
I gotta
middle.
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
Barry,
I gotta
Safe
get to work.
travels.
He's driving the
Thank
forward.
you. I'll see you all.
Barry, thank you.
No, thank you.
Have a good show.
Watch out for the
Thank you.
Texans, Barry.
Say what?
Watch out for the Texans. They're a little crazy.
I'll get a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. I'll fit right in.
Hey, if you get in trouble, I'll call my mom over in Weatherford and she'll send you bail money.
All right, sounds good. All right, later. See ya.
Kristen has her hand up too.
Hi, with the last booth image, I actually wondered how it might look set up across the front because it looks like for the amount of jewelry that you have out, you don't necessarily need the room of people coming inside of your booth. And well, for a booth shot, I actually do think that setting it up straight across and kind of filling as much of that front as possible would make a more impactful booth shot. You could still bring height in, through your displays and that sort of thing. But my eye just sort of felt like something was missing on the right.
yeah, well, I think also when I took that picture, I feel like I should have shifted the booth a little bit away from that left wall. It was a little close to the left wall. And maybe that would have helped center it a little bit more. So I was
That would.
thinking about that.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, I have a ton of jewelry. So like when I do a farmer's market in a few weeks, it's going to be a lot more populated. I was trying to leave it a little sparse just because I thought that's what jurors wanted. But
Yeah,
I'm still figuring it out.
no, it's really nice. I think it's a really nice display.
I love the different levels.
Mhm.
By putting another pedestal like between the tallest and the next tallest. That would fill in some of that that white space.
Mhm.
Moving the whole thing over to the right a little would also help. But
Right. I could
I
even
really,
stagger it a little bit. Like I could move each one. Well, I can play with it.
but I absolutely love the fact that you have the different levels. It's so much more interesting. I'm sorry, Kristen, but it's so much interesting than straight across the front.
Mhm.
And my booth is straight across the front. This is what I would rather have personally,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a lot more interesting.
I think staggering it would make it look really interesting as well.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, like each, I could have each one sticking out a little more, a little more. I'll just have to play with
Yep.
it.
play with
Now be
it, see
careful
what you
about
come up
adding
with.
too much more work. I think
Okay.
jurors have, because you're also balancing the line here of so much work that it starts to look like totally like a production shop. Because there's
Right.
too much, right? So not showing off all that inventory, because then it starts to go, God, how much does she make? And is she really making this? Because there's too much, like a negative reaction. I guess we've
would
seen that.
add, I would
Pardon?
add like another earring stand on the right end of the long front one. I just feel like the front thing, okay, now I am really nitpicking here, so be aware, and I know I am. But just as a, not for jurying,
Mm-mm.
I mean, just, yeah. But you need, because that would help fill that, well, you can't see where I'm pointing, but right there,
Mhm.
you would help block some of that white.
For selling though, not necessarily for the jury picture. Is that what you're saying?
Either one. I don't know. I really like this
Yeah.
booth setup.
Fine.
So I also have a top, so I have two pieces of everything, including two more pedestals that are even taller than the tallest one. I
Mm.
felt like that may have been a little too tall for my
Mhm.
jewelry, but there is a fourth size that's taller than the tallest pedestal. And then I have two of everything.
That was smart
Mhm.
as far as doing a show. How tall is the tallest?
So it's probably incrementally, I'd have to measure it. I don't have it here.
Looks
It's
like,
under our house.
looks like.
It's probably kind of like the other ones where it steps up. It's probably a similar. That desk is 41 or 42 and the back pedestal's 41 or 42. So I think the tallest pedestal is probably 45.
That
Yeah.
is tall. Of course,
Yeah,
I'm really short.
so am I. That's why I left it out.
When you're at a show, you might put things up there like your mirror that someone could grab and take down to try something on. But I don't know that I'd put jewelry up there
Right.
if you use the super tall.
Yeah. If I added one more, I'd add maybe the middle size.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I think you play with shifting it to the right a little bit, maybe add the one over there, just kind of play with that and then see how the imagery, the hanging pieces go behind that, and then you wouldn't get that heavy on the left feel, right? And whether that's the same as how you set up at a show doesn't really matter so much.
Okay. And then I know the image, these are just images because that's all I had. And I wanted to have some banners printed and I didn't have any other pieces made. But as far as having an image on the front, I mean, I could make an image that was smaller And otherwise, it's just like a big black pedestal. I feel like it needs
Yeah.
something up there,
Is that-
like
Now,
whether it's framed or a little smaller, you know, a different
It-
piece of jewelry. I don't know.
It
A
should
different
be,
piece of jewelry.
yeah. It should
Yeah, I
be
can do that.
A picture of something that's not one of your jury images. Because
Yeah.
no point in the redundancy.
Mhm.
For your, he's talking for your jury.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's shot for your
posting.
jury?
Right.
That's all I had this time. So yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
I want those pedestals.
Well, after a year, I'll figure out what I want, what I don't want. I
Well-
figured someone that makes wood or pottery probably would like, they're
Mhm.
big, they were cut. I bought them from another jeweler and they're custom made and they're 27-inch square, which is quite big. I like that though. Because a lot of the new ones are very narrow.
Yeah. Well, very nice.
Bonnie, you don't want a pedestal. You want somebody to put you on a pedestal.
There you go. There you go.
And it should be pink
You bet. To go with my pink ducks
and pink.
that Clark
glasses.
gave me.
Does anybody else have a question?
I have a quick question. My booth was early on with the bracelets that you guys remembered from. Did you think it was too dark? I went with black. I got a trim line. Black was the only color that really made sense with my jewelry, but I felt like it was pretty dark.
Do you want, let me pull it up. This one, right?
I love this.
Thank you.
And one of the things that really makes it is the raw wood against the black. I don't know. It's just, I find it very inviting.
It's really rich looking, you know, and it's
Yeah.
nice. I think it's nice that it's black because otherwise if all that was white, I mean, the same conversation we just had, it's just too white.
Yeah,
So the
and
black
she
is
had-
real,
And she has that French wall there to hide her excess
Right.
inventory.
Yeah,
yeah, it's great.
just very, very nice.
I do have 4 of those tables. So I would definitely set up more at like a street fair. But can you talk a little bit about like the etiquette of if I'm going to set up 3 or do something a little different than this exact setup? How much play do you have? I've heard that some shows are, I mean, I've only done one show ever, so I don't have much knowledge of how this works, but I've heard that some shows want you to set up exactly what you have in your booth shot. But then I guess maybe other shows are okay if like I set up an L with 3 tables. How does that work?
I always set up a little bit differently at every show I did, depending on the space and which direction the people were going to be coming from.
Okay, so if I put
As-
like, they wouldn't
Well,
be,
It has to be representative,
It's still going to look like your booth.
right?
You know, I changed mine around. Sometimes I wanted, even if I didn't have a corner, sometimes I wanted a corner. Sometimes it was straight across the front like this, or, you know, it's just, it was kind of the mood of the moment. And if there was holes in the ground, if there was a hole in the ground or what I'm trying to work around, nobody ever questioned because it still looked basically the same as my booth, just a slightly different configuration.
okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
I think that's true. You know, it's there's probably some show somewhere that really cares, and I don't know whether you're in it or not, right? But so many people, it goes back to the numbers too, right? If there's 200 artists, if you're L-shaped instead of straight across, the staff or the people that put that show on don't have time to care about
Yes.
that. They are way more interested if they were to walk by your booth and, oh, this looks all like, this isn't what she juried on. This is all production stuff, cheaper, doesn't look like her work, has the same layout, but the work's not. They're way more interested in that. That say, oh, you juried on this nice stuff, but what you brought is this imported stuff, right? I mean, the same thing
Yeah.
for the other medium. I mean, they're way more interested in that than whether
Okay,
you have 3 tables or 2 or 1 or.
that makes much sense. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Kristen, I sent you a chat.
She still
Oh.
has her hand up.
Oh, I don't mean to have my hand up.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm looking for your chat. I don't see it.
Should be in the meeting chat.
I have one more question. I guess it's real quick.
Good.
So one thing I was talking to Larry about was that sorry, I broke my thing. I have been journeying into mixed media as my category. Now, what I do is like acrylic, and he was explaining to me that, you know, mixed media is just like a way more competitive category. If I'm journeying into like acrylic and then somebody comes in and, you know, or a show director and they're like, this isn't exactly acrylic, am I gonna like, is that gonna be bad marks on me and they're gonna be like note that for future shows and be like, he's lying on his application, or like, is that not like as big of a deal as I think it is, or
Is
like,
it acrylic? The paint, wasn't your description said it was acrylic spray paint, didn't it?
it's acrylic based spray paint, yes. So
Yeah. Keep a can with you in the booth.
yeah. Well, I
And
do,
does it
and but
have
the
Does it have anything else? Like, did you add watercolor or?
no other
round
watercolor, but
objects or whatever?
the canvas I either print, like, you know, there's like all the texture on the back of my canvas. It's collage. It's either collaged on or it's just printed on the canvas before I wrap it. Like the words. I don't know if you remember, but it's got like newsprint in the background.
Mhm.
So that, but that's all done with acrylic too. Like when I collage it, it's collaged with acrylic. It's just a sheet of paper overlaying the canvas.
If you
So it
can
is
get out,
like mixed media, but it's acrylic mostly, you know. I mean,
if you can get out of the mixed media category, run. Oh, no, get out. Because any potter that decides to put a stick on their pot, a jeweler that puts their pin on a stand, everybody goes into mixed media, thinking that they're going to have a better chance, but you're going against pretty much every other medium.
yeah.
And it's a tough one.
Even the shows that have divided mixed media into 2D and 3D, which is what Art Fest is. So
Yeah, we
you
do
would be
too.
in the 2D category. It's such a collection of different kinds of work that it's a tough category to jury because there's so much variety in it. Whereas painting is painting. I mean, you know, so as long as it's acrylic and that's what, and you're applying in painting versus watercolor. And it's not the case that you have added sticks or whatever found stuff to the. I would move to paint. It's competitive too, but it's easier to jury than mixed.
Yeah.
Mixed media is tough jury.
And you're going to stand out in painting as something
Mhm,
different.
yeah.
And that's really good.
but I'm not going to piss off the jurors. Sorry for that word, but I'm not going to upset jurors or show directors because there is that small mixed media element of the print in the background.
No,
Okay, cool.
And you could
Then,
test
yeah.
it for yourself, right? It might be worth it for some shows for you to do what a friend of mine in this business called cheap research. Right? Apply in mixed media and apply in painting. Same show.
Yeah, I was
Same
telling Larry,
images, same show.
I was telling Larry I did that. I did that for Anacortes Arts Festival, which is one of the bigger ones up here that a lot of people travel in for, and they just ignored one of my applications. Is what they
Oh.
did. Like they didn't, and it's not like they said anything bad. This was last year, and I got into it. They just scored me on one, and then the other never got anything. They just ignored it, right?
Were they
So I thought that was
same
interesting.
images?
But
That's
what's
weird.
up?
Same images in both?
Yeah, same images in both. They
That's
just
why
applied-
they ignored
so,
the other one.
You
gotcha.
shouldn't do that.
So, gotcha. Okay.
Everybody I know scores both
Yeah.
sets or 3 sets or whatever you sent in. They don't.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
it gets interesting in research because you find out that in painting you scored really well and in mixed media you sucked, right? I mean, like that would be interesting to know for you.
Well,
Yep.
I think I didn't used to track it. I tracked it this year, starting this year, just because I had a friend comment on my stuff, like another artist, and I was talking about how I was struggling, but my booth photo was way worse before. It was like I had set it up like a storefront, like so it was very busy, and because it was like set up for optimized retail space and not for like a pretty photo for the jurors. And but so I've since changed that. But one of the things that he was recommending is like, well, maybe it's because you have that little mixed media element, maybe you should be touring into mixed media. So I did mixed media for almost everything this year. And I'm wondering if that's one of the contributing factors to the reason that I got waitlisted to so many things. So I think next year will be my case study and I will compare to see if just doing acrylic
Well,
is better.
the
Okay.
interesting thing is I'm quite often, when I'm during the mixed media category, like mixed media 2D, trying to figure out why in the heck are they in this category? I don't see the mixed media.
Right.
So that's going to go against you too.
Well, I think there was a day, not too long ago, there was a day when the mixed media 2D category was smaller than painting. And so painters, legitimately or not, moved over to mixed media because it was a smaller category. So your odds were better. Well, that's changed now. Mixed media for most folks is higher number than painters, or really close. So maybe there's some carryover of that versus just be honest with what your work is and apply where you belong, because some mixed media is clearly obvious that that's what it is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obvious. And then others are like, well, like you said, why are you in this category? You're obviously a painter. I mean, like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Well, like I said, I chose that category just because of the small fact of the background of my
Mhm.
paintings, right? Because it's not like a conventional background. It's so
mhm.
but yeah, that is good to hear from you guys because I was worried about making that switch. I didn't want to like upset people if they came in and they're like this, like I didn't want to come across as not being forthright. So
Okay. Patty, you have a question?
No? Did I?
Resolution Eats has a
Oh,
question.
that's me. Hi.
Ah.
Hi, guys. Sorry, that's my blog name. It came up. Yeah, my question was same exact question. I am wondering if I can get away with painting because I use paint and paper, but I do cut it and paste it together. So do I need to do mixed media or can I get away with painting?
Is this yours?
It's still,
Yeah,
it's still painting.
that's what I think, but you guys are the judges. What
Did
would
you paint it and then cut it? You painted it and then cut it? Or you?
Yes, but I could do it the other way. I mean, it doesn't
Well,
matter. to me.
But you're not using a different medium. You're
Yeah.
just cutting it.
Right.
But she's collaging paper of somebody else's paper and you're collaging it, right?
That's right.
So I don't know if that's painting.
Yeah.
Oh,
paint it.
okay.
And so, I mean, they all have paint in some form, but
You're mixed media.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where, well,
Yeah. Okay. I'll do what I can. Thanks, guys.
But that's a good example because this is mixed media. You put that against Dakota's, it's
Yeah.
clearly a painting when you compare just those two artists.
Yep. That was a good question.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anybody?
You know, my standard plug is for all the artists who have these kinds of questions that most shows will answer them, call them and ask them. Many shows will take your images before you apply and tell you what they think, not about whether you'll get in. They'll tell you about, do you think this is mixed media or painting? Many shows will have that conversation. And so call them and ask them. Most are really
No,
talkative.
don't call. Don't call.
Yeah, well, this is
Email
before
them.
this is before the jury. You could email too,
Okay.
but that's different than calling the day after jury comes out and everybody wants to know where they are on the wait list.
Very
Um,
true.
That's a different thing, but yeah, that they'll give feedback, whether it's emailed or phone call, but ask them because we don't bite. Because I'm not an active director again, but all the directors I know don't bite. We're pretty friendly people. And what was my other thing going to say? Oh, there's not many jewelers on here, but there's this thing going around on one of the forums right now. I was talking to Larry about this earlier. This is chit chat about other mediums that starting to have jewelry in their booth. Like this is a question, like, where did this become a question that the painters can get away with jewelry? I mean, there's no question there. If it's jewelry, it's jewelry. Go apply in the jewelry category or keep it out of your booth.
Thank you.
This is simple. This is simple. This is not a debate over, oh, I'm ceramic and I added a few pieces of ceramic jewelry so I can put them in my booth. Yeah, probably not. Or shouldn't be able to anyway.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, that should never.
Totally agree.
And I see it over and over. I see wood, people who work with wood, cute little wood earrings. I see people who work with, whose medium is glass, cute little glass earrings. And it drives me crazy. It skews the number of jewelers in the show.
Yep.
Jewelry is a tough enough category to try to get in.
And I wouldn't want to influence what you say to people, so I didn't say this. You did not hear this from me, but I would tell on them. In case
Oh,
the
in a
show-
heartbeat.
in case the show hasn't seen it, because again, if there's a couple hundred artists, it's hard to see that. They may not see it till Sunday. I mean, but I just think that's not tolerable. So
Some shows allow it.
well, if that's the case, then that should have been in the prospectus and you know that people knew up front, but the ones who don't. Yeah, some shows allow that, and that's up to them to have those rules. And it's just up to the artist, the jewelers to protest that and see if they can get it changed. But
I love the 10% rule.
Oh,
well, as long as 10% of you can have 10% of jewelry in your booth.
you're a
That's like,
painter or something?
excuse me.
10% of what? And no.
No,
Yeah.
it's 10% of new work in the same medium.
Exactly.
nonsense.
That was the guild has that.
Yes.
Kristen,
Kristen, are you listening?
It makes me mad. Yeah, I'm definitely listening.
For low end jewelry, it's a killer because the stuff they're bringing in is low end jewelry.
Yeah.
I know.
Do something.
It has to be in the
god-awful.
same medium they juried in.
I'm only one person.
Just
Only-
different new
Yeah.
work.
But you're loud.
All right, I'll bring it up again.
Thank you.
I
I
may
do
have
have-
to join the board.
Yes.
I'll be your backup.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a lot of things that you don't like, but you're not the only one. You're
Yeah.
you're the only one that might agree with that.
Jewelers are the only one that would truly understand that.
I had
They're the
not-
ones standing in their booth and everybody's saying, there's so much jewelry here.
Right.
It's like, well, it's not my fault. Trust me, I don't want this much jewelry here.
Every jeweler will agree, Bonnie.
Yes.
I have one last question, and this is just a quick one. I've been seeing a lot online that like if I don't have a trim line tent, it's going to reflect bad on me because I use just a canopy. Is that like a real thing? Like, is it really going to make a difference? Like, do
With
I have
some-
to go out and buy the $3,000 tent?
Well, now, with
No.
some shows, do you do any Howard Allen shows?
No, he's in the other side of the country.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I'm on West
Howard
Coast.
still, Howard, well, he doesn't go that
Is
far.
it the West Coast?
Yeah. Do you know anybody that has a light dome you could borrow to shoot a booth picture?
Oh, come on. Don't tell him to cheat.
I've had like a lot of people tell me to do that, but I mean, I don't know. I want to
Don't-
buy one anyways, but I'm wondering if it's like, I was going to buy it in a couple of years and save up, but if it's like something that's making it so I'm not getting into shows.
You
then
don't
I'll
know,
It
you
is-
don't know the reason.
Okay. I highly doubt that your choice of canopy is keeping every time somebody says that, I never, as a juror, I never notice what kind of canopy they have, the artists have. It makes no difference to me. If the show, I'm juring the work, not the type of canopy. If the show has a problem with it, that's their problem, and they need to tell me as a juror that we don't accept anybody with an easy up type canopy. But then they should go through it first and weed out everybody. But otherwise, I'm judging the work, not your canopy. The show is the one that judges your canopy. And if they have a problem with it, it needs to be in the prospectus that you may not use a pop-up type canopy at our show. And there are some shows that say that. But don't, Larry, shame on you. Do not
cheat.
encourage cheating. You know, we have a hard enough time in this industry keeping everybody honest. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, and it being in the
Now, Larry's a good
prospectus-
friend of mine. You know, if I didn't know him or whatever, I couldn't give him crap, but at least I think we're friends. Maybe not anymore.
But then it needs to be what Bonnie said, right? It needs to be in the prospectus and it needs to be up big and bold that that's the case, that they, if they don't allow them. Otherwise, you know, I see comments too online about that the canopy is a problem or that the weights don't show in your tent. So that's sort of the same thing. That's not the juror's problem about whether you have weights. We're not there to look at that about the tent, right? I mean, it's the work that's in the booth. I mean, that part, not whether you have the right kind of weights. Now, the show itself may have some rules about that and may get back to you and say, we have to have this. And do you have, I mean, they might do that, but it's
Didn't
not up
they?
to the jurors.
Yeah, didn't Naples do that 2 weeks before the show?
Yeah, Naples they put out some interesting information this past year. Yeah, they put
Putting it
out, you
nicely.
couldn't have this kind of tent and that kind of tent and whatever weights. And they had a bunch of, like I said, interesting information coming out.
And then they wouldn't let the tent company
Right.
artists rent tents and have them set up because they didn't allow enough time for them to be set up.
Oh, yeah, because their setup starts at 4 in the morning or something, and then the tent company can't get it done that fast. We use the
Right.
same tent company,
Right.
but yeah, so that's stuff that gets pushed around about canopies and weights and
Good to know. Thank you. Yeah,
grain
that
of-
was
grain of salt.
cool.
I can practically guarantee that the reason that you're waitlisted is different for every show.
Mhm.
You know, it's probably not, okay, other than the bath mat.
Yeah.
It's probably
Fair.
not, it's probably not the same thing.
I mean, I'm just trying to find all those things like how can I be like 1% better here, 1% better here, and
Yep.
and stack it enough to like to help get in. You know, like each year I get into a few more than I did the year before, and a few more. But you know, like I do this full time, and in order to keep doing it full time, I need to be getting into like the big high caliber shows, you know, like a
Yep.
few of them a year makes a huge difference when you're doing 2 shows that make 20, 30 grand as opposed to 6 shows that make 5. So,
Have you considered coming to the Midwest?
yeah, for in the future, yeah, in the next couple of years, but currently I have to be within a certain distance of some specific locations.
home.
Yeah, but that'll be different next year, I think. So,
Because the Midwest is very strong for art fairs, and there aren't 60 zillion of them. Sorry, Sharon,
Yep, no worries.
in, you know, it's a good solid place
Mhm.
for art fairs.
And some
What-
cities that are more inclined to be already thinking that spray and stencil is actually an artist. And some cities that aren't quite there yet, including Florida, and we have too many art shows, but we're a pretty old fashioned state.
yeah, but well, Florida's like where you've got Art Basel and Wynwood,
If
and
you
so
go
it's
there, right.
it's very very appreciative of the genre. Like LA
Right.
and Florida are the most receptive to like the pop art, stencil art, spray paint kind of genre.
That's true. If you're headed for Basel, that's true. I was thinking of the others, that the street fairs that are not necessarily quite on the page yet, that there's different kinds of art for different people. Yeah.
Got it.
But Basel, that's a whole other subject.
Well, cool. I'm gonna dip, but I want to tell you guys I appreciate so much of your time and for answering all my 100 little questions that I came up with. It's been like really, 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 really helpful, and helps me know what things to not stress about and what things to stress about, and I appreciate it very much. I learned a lot.
Excellent.
Great.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, thank you guys for taking the time.
It's so funny because when I was starting out back in the dark ages, we didn't have this kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it's just so helpful. Let you not make the mistakes that so many of us made. Me.
Yep.
When starting out.
Yeah, I agree. It's very, very, very helpful. So
Great
Good
to see
weights.
guys like you coming in the business. That's great.
Yes.
well, thanks.
We need young, we need different, we need new, we need diversity, we need
Yes.
the whole shebang.
Just drag everybody with us, right?
Yep. All righty.
All right.
Larry?
Sounds like a good day.
Yeah, are we
Larry.
done?
Looks like it.
Well, thank you very much, Sharon and Bonnie and Barry.
Thank you guys very
You're
much.
welcome.
Right, we'll see you.
Always
Thanks for being
enjoyable.
here. Always, yep, always great. Love to see the artists and
Yeah.
the questions.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
See ya.
All right. Bye, everybody.
It was good.
Yep.